Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. The Niagara Falls Horticultural Society's garden tour was on Saturday. Last Saturday, July the 9th, from 10 to 4 p.m. I got around to all the gardens, so I thought I'd give you a bit of highlights on what I saw. The first garden is number one, not necessarily in any order, by the way, but I am going to do them, and I'll tell you that this one is the one at 6399 Stamford Green Drive. First of all, I really like the idea that in the shade of the back garden they have numerous pots of aspidistra, including a variegated one. Also, they have lots of clivias, so they're doing very well. The clivias and the aspidistras are not showing any signs of stress, and they're wintered in a cooler area of the house, which is attached, where he brings in all his plants that he sort of winters. The half-hardy ones, the ones that need protection, warmth, but not too warm, like the aspidistra and the clivia. But the other thing he does is he brings in his hardy fig, and he winters it in there too. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't defoliate, etc., but it does come through much better and larger. There seems to be less dieback, so it might be a consideration for those of you trying to grow the hardy figs. The best part about this whole garden was not the front yard, but the backyard. The backyard is almost, I would say at least 60-70% vegetable garden. And it is probably one of the most extensive vegetable gardens, and well tended, well looked after by a loving hand. Trust me when I say this. Gathers his own seed, overwinters and starts his own seeds, particularly on plants that he hasn't been able to get, such as Blue Lake beans, which we all know hasn't existed for many, many years. Blue Lake beans were an old variety, usually bush. There were pole beans as well, and they were excellent. The problem is that they sort of lost the genetics of it, and they have others today they even call Blue Lake that are similar. Okay, and he realizes this and has kept his own seed. The problem is the plants in all reality are not exactly the same as he used to have them, because, of course, they're open pollinated and they're taller. So, but they're still Blue Lake beans, and he's still picking them and keeping the seeds, etc. And you'll see in the garden where he's left a plant up in order to gather the seed for next year. So he always picks one of the best, and he does a superior job. Now, the other one was the one at 7301 Freeman Street. It is an interesting garden in the fact that it has so many great little things in it. It has cattails. Now, we're not talking about real cattails, but it also has a cool, shady stream, waterfall steps. It's got a sunny dining area. The tomatoes along the house, along the foundation on the south side, sort of basically run the length of the house. And they're all nicely staked. The place is immaculate and clean, and there isn't a yellow leaf to be seen. I also like the yellow bicycle in the front yard. It was something that sort of made it a little different, and people knew where to go and look. When you come down the street, you see the yellow bicycle, you know it's the place to turn in. That's 7031 Freeman Street as well, and these are all in Niagara Falls. And then there was the 4693 Pettit Avenue. Now, this is a simple little garden where the artwork makes it. It's got a great birdhouse. And when was the last time you heard me say that? Really, really nice. And I did like this one. It's very intimate, and there are a lot of sculptures and artwork in the garden. So it is a little bit more of an artist garden, but a very nice one. Then there was the Lundy's Lane at Moulin Avenue. Now, this is a container garden. It is a colorful oasis on a corner. Most of the plant material is in containers, but not all. When I looked at this one, I went, yes. So he's got a mixed perennial border. He's got areas for hostas. Plant material out front, which is right on Lundy's Lane. And gardens that stretch out and include the boulevard on the side street. Now, we're talking small, but still well done. This garden probably, in my opinion, was one of the highlights of the entire garden tour. So you can see it as you drive down Lundy's Lane, at least that part. But to see the back part, you're basically going to have to walk into his little parking lot there, which is all asphalt, and sort of peek over the containers which form a wall of boxwood. An excellent, excellent garden. I like that one an awful lot. Now that's the 6959 Lundy's Lane. Now the McMillan Drive one was at 6515 McMillan now. This one had huge hemlocks and beeches. It's got Japanese maples and redbuds as understories. It's got ground covers as ferns. They're still starting to fill in. There is some Japanese bamboo water fountain. Okay, the one that goes cluck, cluck, cluck. You know the one I mean. Baltic ivy is a ground cover. Redbud seedlings coming up in the Baltic ivy. And there is a large Japanese bloodgood maple there. It has a sitting area for dining for 10 people. And it has an excellent water feature as well. This is probably the largest garden on the tour, and it is extremely well done. The back border is a good mix. It has a separate area of a gazebo and with curtains for privacy. There are shagbark hickories, which are a bit of a mess, but they are still shagbark hickories. They'll attract squirrels and other things and wildlife because, of course, shagbark hickories are good to eat. There was also lots of Buddhas in this garden. There's a smiling Buddha and Buddha. And there is a little contemplation area for 2 people to sit. And there's the gong. And I really liked it. Out on the front driveway, there's a couple of rounded rocks. Now, I'm not sure that these haven't been mechanically rounded, but they sort of are oblonged and rounded, different sizes, so they blend together, boom, as a setting. A little different, and they like to use the Weeping Beech standards, which is, again, a little different. Definitely an excellent, excellent garden, very large, and I think maybe a little underrated as well. There was a musician playing in that garden as well. Now, the next one was the one on Centennial Drive. It's a sunny garden. It's got lots of plants in there so to keep the weeds down. So it's more of a mixed garden. It has lots of hostas, echinaceas, and other perennials. It also had the O Canada rose, which I really liked. Thyme and lots of plants were there as well. So I liked that an awful lot. It was a very small garden. It was very intense. You have to look at it for what it is, and it's more a very intense, cluttered garden where you got a little of this and a little of that, but really quite attractive because you can often see a lot in a garden that's that small and that tightly packed. Now, there was another one as well. Now, this one is on Belmont. This is the 5510 Belmont because there's 2 on Belmont. It's got a mini farm garden in the backyard. The front garden is the best use of plants that I've seen in a long time. There's color, there's contrast, and it's really well done. there are certain hidden areas where two people could have a quiet, shady coffee, and other areas that it's not. It's been a renovated house a number of years ago, and to be honest, they did a good job, but it's very long and low. And so the whole front yard really is the garden. The backyard is more just for like a farm garden, fruit trees, vegetables, etc. The other garden on Belmont was 5585 Belmont. I liked this one because it had a door in the garden. Now, okay, you have doors in gardens, but this is a door that stood by itself. And then it had 2x4 across the top. And then it had 2 window frames with window boxes that are planted. That's all there is. There's no wall. So it doesn't block the view. And since there are no fences, you can see 2 neighbors down. And even their shed is in a style that looks like it belongs in their yard. A lot of trees, a lot of hostas, a lot of ferns. As ground cover, it's still coming along. Sunny areas, sitting areas, and dining areas. A nice garden overall. So you can take a look at that one as well. Now there was the 5659 Magnolia Drive. It's kind of neat in the fact that they had light bulbs hanging upside down, which are lit up with a remote control. It has black bark all the way through the garden, which is not my favorite, but it works in this garden. This one is a garden for a designer, and she does an extremely good job. So you look at what she's got, and it's more of a designer's garden than a gardener's garden. So it's really quite nice. They also had the only concrete squirrel that I've ever seen that I really liked. Okay? And you know what I say, the only good squirrel is a dead squirrel. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.